Space is vast, cold, and indifferent, but sometimes in the folds of fate, even the impossible finds a way. This is the story of how a proud alien queen discovered that biology has a sense of humor, and that humans always find a way. The Starship Resolute sliced through the void like a knife through black silk. Commander Will Watson lounged in the command chair, boots up on the navigation console, drinking reheated coffee for the third time. Routine recon mission in the Krios sector. Space boredom at its finest. Then the alarm screamed. Shield systems critical. Collision with unidentified debris. Hull breach, Sector 4. Will threw his feet down, coffee flying across the cockpit as the ship shuddered like it had hit an invisible mountain. It wasn't debris. It was an old goddamn space mine, the kind the Solarian Empire used to leave floating around as a private property fuck-off sign. Computer, reroute auxiliary power to shields, now. Insufficient energy. Recommend immediate evacuation. Evacuate to where, you smug tin can? We're light years from any... Another explosion. The control panel spat blue sparks. Artificial gravity cut out. Will floated for half a second before the ship's spin slammed him into the wall, copper taste of blood in his mouth, ribs complaining. He clawed his way back to the console, fingers dancing over the manual controls. The Resolute was falling. Not in space. That would have been almost elegant. It was being dragged down by the gravity of a nearby planet. A planet that, according to the dying sensors, had an average surface temperature of -40 degrees and winds that could strip paint off starships. Perfect. Exactly the kind of vacation I needed. Will wrestled with the controls, trying to flatten the descent angle. The atmosphere caught the ship like a giant fist and shook it. The thermal shield was cracked. Orange plasma licked the windows. The cockpit temperature jumped 10 degrees in seconds. He managed to swing the ship into a slightly less suicidal angle, not good, but less instant vaporization, and more slow, painful death. Progress. Impact hit like a freight train. The snow cushioned some of it, but when you're coming in at orbital speeds, some means your teeth still slam hard enough to chip. The ship skidded across the frozen surface, carving a trench of twisted metal and melted ice for what felt like forever, until it finally ground to a stop against a jagged rock formation. Silence. Just the wind howling outside and the sound of dying systems inside. Will spat blood and laughed, because if you don't laugh, you cry, and tears freeze at -40. Computer. Status. Nothing. Dead. Great. Stimulating conversation, as always. He dragged himself to the emergency compartment, every movement a little agony, and found the tactical armor. By the grace of human engineers everywhere, it still had power. He climbed into the suit. Reinforced polymers, internal heaters, air recycling, the full stay alive in places that hate life package. The seals hissed shut. Internal temperature leveled at 20 degrees. Luxury. Will forced the hatch open. The wind hit like a beast, carrying snow that cut like powdered glass. He stepped out and almost got knocked over by the sheer force of it. The world was white, endless white in every direction, broken only by jagged black rock formations rising like the teeth of some dead god. The sky was a roiling slab of grey. 3 small moons hung low on the horizon like indifferent eyes. Nice place to die, Will muttered, activating the suit's emergency beacon. Short range, but maybe, just maybe, someone was listening. He started walking, not because he had a plan, because staying in the ship meant waiting for the heat to run out and freezing into a very unimpressive statue. At least walking let him pretend he was doing something. The HUD mapped the terrain, searching for shelter. A rock formation 2 clicks away showed possible caves. 2 kilometers. In a blizzard. On an alien planet. Just another day at the office. He was halfway there when he felt it, that sense of being watched. The old primal instinct that kept humans alive long enough to leave the savannas and start colonizing the stars. Will stopped, turned slowly, hand going to the plasma pistol at his hip, and then he saw her. She stood atop a rock outcrop, her silhouette stark against the storm-black sky. Tall, impossible to miss, easily 8 feet, maybe more, armor that looked like overlapping orange scales, organic and metallic at the same time, glowing faintly from within. She held a weapon that was somewhere between a spear and a plasma rifle, leveled right at his chest, and her eyes, gold, feline, locked on him with an intensity that cut through the blizzard like it wasn't there. "Oh, shit," Will breathed. "She's huge." The figure jumped down, not climbed, not slid, jumped. She landed in the snow with impossible lightness for something that size and started walking toward him. Each step was measured, predatory. Will had just enough time to take in more details. Sunset orange skin, copper hair cascading over armored shoulders like molten metal, humanoid features but just too refined, too perfect, like someone had taken the idea of a face and ran it through some alien perfection filter. She stopped 3 meters away. The spear rifle thing was pointed directly at his chest. "Identify yourself, intruder." Her voice was rich, a deep contralto with the kind of accent that made every word sound like a royal decree. The suit's universal translator kicked in, but Will could still hear the original language underneath, melodic, complex, old. He lifted his hands slowly, palms open. "Commander Will Watson, Terran Space Fleet. My ship crashed. I'm not hostile." Her golden eyes studied him. There was something in that stare. Superiority, absolute certainty, the kind of confidence that comes from ruling the same patch of galaxy for a few thousand years. Terror, human. She said the word like she was identifying a mildly interesting insect. "You stand on sovereign territory of the Solarian Empire. Restricted sector. Penalty for intrusion is death." "Wow, real welcoming vibe you've got going. You must kill at parties." A muscle jumped in her jaw. "How you make jokes while I hold your life on the tip of my spear?" "Well, I've got 2 options, jokes or panic. Panic doesn't help. Jokes at least keep me warm." For the first time, something like curiosity flickered in her eyes. "You do not fear me." "Oh, I'm terrified. But fear either freezes you or pushes you forward. I prefer forward." She tilted her head slightly, feline and analytical, then lowered the spear. "Just a little. You will come with me. Try to escape. You die. Try to attack. You die. Try to make more jokes. You may still die. Understood?" "Loud and clear, Your Majesty." "Queen," she corrected. "Queen Aurelia of Solara, and you pronounced it incorrectly. My universal translator's having a rough day. Blame primitive human tech." Those golden eyes shimmered with something that might have been amusement, or the urge to stab him. Hard to tell. "Walk, 2 steps behind, hands visible." Will obeyed. As they pushed through the storm, he couldn't help but notice. She moved through the blizzard like it was a mild breeze. The wind that nearly toppled him didn't make her sway. Strength, balance, or built-in stabilizers in the armor. Probably all of the above. "So," he called over the wind, "you always patrol frozen hell worlds in the middle of nowhere, or is today special?" Silence. "It just seems like a lonely hobby. Gotta get boring out here." I said silence. "Got it." Mouth shut. Just admiring the scenery. Very white. She stopped, turned. For a second, Will was sure he was dead. Then he saw it. The corner of her mouth twitching upward, almost invisible, almost a smile. "You are irritating. Part of the human charm package. Comes standard. I should kill you. Probably, but then you'd be bored again." This time she definitely smiled. "Walk, human, before I change my mind about keeping you alive." And so Will walked, following an alien queen through a blizzard that wanted him dead, and for the first time since he woke up falling from orbit, he thought maybe, just maybe, he'd survive this. The outpost was impressive in a dark, brutal way. Carved straight into the black rock, the entrance was an arch of living metal, not welded, but grown, organic and metallic at once. Solarian tech always blurred the line between engineering and biology. Warm light spilled from inside. Heat. Infrastructure. Will had never been so happy to see walls. Aurelia gave him a shove, gentle by her standards, which still nearly sent him stumbling, and pushed him in. The hatch sealed behind them with a wet, organic hiss. "Welcome to my temporary prison, human." She removed her helmet, and Will saw her face fully for the first time. He had no words. Beautiful didn't cover it. Alien, yes, but something in the symmetry, the structure, the sharp intelligence in her gaze lit up ancient, stupid parts of his brain that had nothing to do with strategy. "You are staring," not a question. "Hard not to. You're impressive. Obviously. Zero modesty, just absolute certainty." "Remove your armor," she ordered. "You will not attack. If you try, I am armed." Will complied, seals hissing open. The air was warm, breathable, faintly metallic. Out of the armor, he felt small, exposed. She still towered almost half a meter over him. She led him deeper inside. The outpost was compact, clearly meant for 1 or 2 people on long-term watch. Main room with a communications console, a rest area with 2 platforms serving as beds, a medical station and supply lockers. You will sleep there, she pointed to the smaller platform. Do not attempt to access communications. They respond only to Solarian biometrics. And how long are we staying? Until an Imperial rescue vessel arrives, 2, maybe 3 local days. And then? Then you will be interrogated, processed, and likely executed for trespassing in a restricted sector. But you will at least die warm. Your compassion overwhelms me. She ignored him, moving to the console. Long fingers glided over controls that seemed to respond directly to her touch. Strange, she muttered. I cannot reach the Imperial network. Storm? Will suggested. No. This is interference, as if the world roared, not an explosion, deeper, more primal, the kind of sound you feel in your bones. The entire outpost shook, lights flickered. Aurelia was thrown against the wall, Will into the console. What the hell was that? He shouted. Aurelia was already on her feet, moving back to the panel. A slide, the mountain above us. The structure was unstable. Her fingers flew over the controls, frustration tightening her features. The entrance is blocked. Completely. Silence settled, heavy, suffocating. How long do our supplies last? Will asked, voice steady even as his mind spun scenarios. Supplies? Weeks. Air? Indefinitely. The generators are self-sustaining. She turned to him, and for the first time, he saw real emotion in her perfect face. Worry. But all external communication is dead. We are cut off. So we're trapped, here, together, you and me, in a tiny bunker, temporarily. Once my absence is noticed, how long does that take? Days, weeks? Her silence was answer enough. Will sighed and scrubbed a hand over his face. All right, well, at least I'm not freezing to death. I'll chalk that up as a win. Aurelia watched him, and something shifted in her gaze. It didn't soften. She didn't do soft, but it changed. Less vermin and more evaluation. You are strangely calm for someone trapped with a predator. Panic doesn't help, and technically, we're trapped. Same ship or bunker, whatever. She almost smiled. Almost. Does your species have a saying about making the best of bad situations? Several. My favorite. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. I do not understand. What are lemons? And why would you drink them? In that ridiculous moment, Will started laughing. Real laughter. The kind that comes from somewhere half-broken inside. Because the whole situation was absurd. Stranded on a frozen alien rock, stuck with a queen who didn't know what lemons were, no rescue in sight, and laughing was the only sane reaction left. Aurelia watched him as though he'd gone completely insane. Humans, she murmured, are truly strange creatures. The first days settled into an awkward routine. Aurelia kept her distance physically, but her eyes watched everything. Will explored what he was allowed to explore, patched up a few minor systems damaged in the slide, and did what humans do best. He asked questions. A lot of questions. Why were you out here alone? He asked on the second night as they ate rations. His bland, hers, spicy enough to sting his eyes just from the smell. Border watch, she said, ensuring that lesser species do not trespass on Imperial territory. Lesser species. Charming. It is factual. The Solarian Empire is superior in technology, biology, and social organization. We have ruled this region of space for 12,000 years. Your species was learning fire when my people mastered FTL. And yet here I am. Will shrugged, improvising my way through your frozen backyard. Improvisation is not strategy. I couldn't disagree more. Half our biggest victories came from improvisation. He leaned forward. You know what makes us dangerous? We're not the strongest, not the fastest, definitely not the smartest, compared to some of you out here. He grinned. But we are stubborn bastards who don't know when to quit. Aurelia studied him with that sharp, dissecting gaze. You speak like a soldier. How many wars have you fought? Enough to know survival isn't about being superior. It's about adapting faster. Interesting philosophy. For a primitive. Primitive, maybe. Still alive. And you're stuck here with me. Which means primitive comes with perks. Something flickered across her face. Amusement? Respect? You do not fear me. Oh, I do. You could snap me in half. But fear doesn't equal surrender. Then what does it mean? It means caution. Respect. He held her gaze. And curiosity. About what? You. Why is a queen doing border patrol alone? Sounds like grunt work. Her expression shuttered. That is not your concern. Fair. Imperial secret. Got it. But she kept looking at him. And then, unexpectedly, she spoke. "Temporary exile," she said. "My younger sister challenged my authority in public. I could have executed her. It would have been my right. But," she hesitated, "a crack in the armor. I chose distance instead of blood. I came to a remote outpost by my own will, to let palace politics cool." Will processed that. "So you exiled yourself to save your sister. Sentimental weakness, some of my advisors say. I'd call it strength. Any idiot can kill. It takes real strength to spare someone." Aurelia held his gaze for a long moment. Then for the first time a real smile curved her lips. Small but genuine. "You are wise? For a primitive? And you," Will said, "are way more emotional than an apex alien predator is supposed to be." She threw a ration pack at him. He ducked, laughing. Something had shifted. The wall between them had its first real cracks. On day 5, Will was elbow-deep in the water filtration system, which had started making an ominous grinding noise. Aurelia watched from a distance at first, then drifted closer. "You understand these systems?" she asked. "Basic engineering, part of military training. Plus, human gear breaks so often, we either learn to fix it or we die. Weak design, or flexible. Our stuff may not be elegant like yours, but you can jury-rig it back to life with scrap and tape." She knelt beside him. A fluid movement that should have looked awkward for someone that large, but didn't. "Show me," she said. He explained how the system worked, what part was failing, how he could bypass it with salvaged components. She followed fast, a mind like a scalpel, questions precise and sharp. Their hands brushed as they reached for the same tool, electricity, literal. Her skin carried a faint bioelectric field that made the hair on his arm stand on end. She felt it too. Her eyes widened a fraction, and she snatched her hand back as if burned. "Apologies," she said softly. "Solarians generate a minor bioelectric field, not harmful to most species, but it tingles if you're built like me." Will smiled. "Didn't hurt, just surprised me." "You are not an insect," she said quietly, almost reluctantly. "You are different from what I expected." Different good or different bad? Different confusing. There it was. Admission. She didn't know what to do with him anymore. By day 9, the storm outside had become a monster. They couldn't see much through crusted-over sensors, but the whole structure groaned with every gust. They sat in the main room. Aurelia had shed some of her armor now, not unprotected, but less guarded. Underneath, she wore a close-fitting undersuit that didn't leave much to the imagination in terms of strength and curves. Will tried not to stare. He failed a little. "You are staring again," she said. "Hard not to." "Why?" "I am alien to you. Our physiologies are incompatible. I should not trigger attraction in a human. Biology disagrees. You're objectively attractive. Height, build, facial symmetry. Those are basic, primal triggers, even in a monkey brain like mine. So it is purely biological? An animal response? No." He held her gaze. "It's also personality, intelligence, strength, the way you don't submit to anyone but don't need to prove yourself every second, confidence, without just being ego. I am arrogant. No, you're self-aware. There's a difference." Aurelia considered that. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed, a low, rich sound. "Humans, you find reasons for attraction where none should exist. It's what we do. We adapt. You adapt to the edge of insanity, sometimes past it." Silence draped over them, comfortable this time. Then Aurelia spoke again, voice quieter than he'd ever heard it. "Among my people, cross-species breeding is unthinkable, biologically impossible in most cases. And even if possible, it would be considered an abomination. Pollution of the bloodline. Sounds lonely," Will said. "It is pragmatic. Genetic purity ensures strength. Or inbreeding. Genetic diversity is survival. Basic biology." She stared at him. "You suggest we breed with lesser species? I suggest that calling other species lesser is arrogance that's going to bite your ass eventually." "Bite my... what?" "Human expression means your choices will come back to haunt you." Aurelia studied him for a long time. Then she smiled again. "You accuse me of stupidity. I accuse your people of tunnel vision. And your people? Humans are different? Hell no. We're tribal, xenophobic, and frequently idiots. But at least we're trying to get better, to grow, to learn. Growth requires admitting weakness." "Exactly. It takes courage to say, 'I don't know.'" Something in her eyes eased. "You are..." Unusual, Will Watson. First time she'd said his name like that. And you, Queen Aurelia, are less terrifying than I thought. I can still tear you in half, I have no doubt, but you won't. So certain? Yeah. Why? Because you like me. Silence. Then she laughed again, fully, genuinely this time. Your arrogance is astonishing. Learned from the best. He winked. She threw a pillow at him. He caught it, chuckling, and the space between them shrank a little more. By day 14, the air between them was different. Charged. A tension no filtration system could scrub out. They talked for hours now. She told him about the 12,000-year empire, conquests, politics, the weight of a crown. He told her about Earth, about human wars and human peace, about how his species had clawed for every inch of space it occupied, and there were the touches. Accidental at first, hand brushing hand, shoulders knocking, then less accidental, longer. It was late. Lights dimmed to simulate night. Aurelia sat on her platform, Will on his. The distance between them was small, easy to cross, dangerous. Will, she said, yeah? May I ask something personal? You can try. Have you ever loved someone? Romantically? That, coming from her, threw him. Once, he said. Years ago. Didn't end well. Why? She wanted stability. I chose the stars. Some things don't coexist. Do you regret it? The choice? No. Hurting her? Yeah. Aurelia nodded slowly. Among Solarians, romantic love is complicated. Pairing is political, strategic. Feelings are secondary. Sounds empty. It is efficient. Efficiency doesn't keep you warm at night. She looked at him. There it was again, that rare crack in the armor. You are correct, she admitted. It is empty. I am queen of an empire that spans 100 worlds, and I am alone. Will moved before he could talk himself out of it. He crossed the gap between their beds and sat beside her. Close. Too close. You're not alone now, he said. Sorry if I crossed a line. No. Her hand caught his, large, strong, surprisingly gentle. You did not. She paused. This is madness. You know that? Absolutely. You are human. I am Solarian. Biologically incompatible. Culturally impossible. I know. Even if we escaped this place, there would be no future. My people would never accept it. Yours likely would not either. Probably not. Then why? He lifted a hand and cupped her face. Her skin was warm, texture subtly different from human but not unpleasant. She froze, golden eyes widening. Because, Will said quietly, we are here, now, and life's too short to waste on shouldn't and impossible. My people would say breeding between us is impossible. Monstrous even, she said. Good thing I'm not asking about breeding. What? Aurelia. He smiled faintly. I'm not asking for your womb. I'm asking for this moment. That's it. She studied him. Long, hard. Then, decision made, she leaned in. The kiss was electric, literally. That faint biofield of hers turned his lips to pins and needles. But it was more than that. Awkward for half a second. Different anatomy, slightly different angles. And then it found its rhythm. She was strong, dominant. But when he deepened the kiss, she melted.